I sat at the corner of a bustling night market, hunched over a bowl of yanchen noodles. "Boss, add an egg," I called out. I finished that bowl in 3 massive gulps. I looked up at the owner and grinned, my hair tied back in a messy topknot. I was wearing a cheap white tracksuit, looking more like a jobless slacker than a priest. "Coming right up," the boss shouted, cracking an egg into the boiling pot with practiced ease. I reached into my pocket and felt around. 43 yuan. That was all I had left. The 2,000 yuan stipend from the Marshal Bureau had to last me until the end of the month, and it was only the 10th. My life was a struggle. The roof of my dojo, the Jinwu Temple, leaked every time it drizzled. When I'd asked the lady at the Marshal Bureau's logistics department for repair funds, she just rolled her eyes and told me not to come back until the building actually collapsed. My phone vibrated. It was a notification from the Haicheng Marshal Bureau. Mission: suspected beast activity in the abandoned buildings on the east side. Reward: 2,000 yuan. Deadline: 3 days. 2,000. My eyes lit up. That was exactly what I needed for the roof. "Boss, give me one more bowl." Before the words even left my mouth, a deafening crash shook the street. A massive man in a black tank top, along with his motorcycle, came flying through the air. They smashed right into the barbecue stall next to us. Metal skewers flew everywhere, and glowing charcoal scattered across the pavement. "Holy!" The owner dropped his ladle in terror. I didn't panic. I slid to the side, holding my bowl steady. Not a single drop of soup spilled. The big man crawled out from the wreckage of his bike, coughing up blood. The sleeve of his right arm was shredded to ribbons. "Run! Get out of here!" he wheezed, looking at the crowd. A low, guttural roar echoed from the direction of the abandoned buildings. The noisy market went dead silent for 3 seconds. Then, the screaming started. "A beast! It's an evolved beast! Run for your lives!" The crowd exploded into chaos. Vendors abandoned their carts, sprinting for the main road. I didn't move. I set my bowl down, wiped my mouth, and squinted into the darkness. 2 glowing, predatory eyes were moving toward us. "Kid, run!" the stall owner yelled, grabbing my arm. I just smiled. "Go on ahead, boss. I'm going to see what's going on." He cursed at me and took off without looking back. The injured man struggled to his feet, stepping in front of me. "Stay back, kid. This is a level 1 beast. It's not something A." He looked me up and down. "Are you a priest?" "I am," I nodded. "A priest is useless here. This is a beast. Only a martial artist can handle this. I've already notified the Bureau. Just run." The creature stepped out of the shadows. It was the size of a bull, covered in iron-like scales with a row of bone spikes lining its back. An armored rhino. The man's face went pale. A level 1. Its strength is at least 20 tons. Last time, it took 3 martial artists to corner one, and it still escaped. The rhino scraped its front hoof against the pavement, carving deep gouges into the concrete. It was locking onto me. "Go. I'll hold it off," the man shouted. "Brother," I interrupted, stepping past him. "Don't panic. Just take a few steps back." The rhino let out a low growl, lowering its head to charge. "Don't throw your life away." The man gritted his teeth and lunged forward. He slammed a fist into the beast's flank, his inner energy exploding on impact. It barely left a scratch on the scales. The rhino swung its head, and a bone spike sent the man flying. He crashed through 2 brick walls and landed in a heap of rubble. "Damn it, run." He coughed, unable to get up. "Hey, watch it," I shouted. The rhino turned its gaze toward me. I stood my ground, less than 5 meters away. I looked down at my white tracksuit and saw a splash of noodle soup on the fabric. My blood started to boil. "You brute," I hissed. I only owned 3 sets of clothes. The rhino roared and charged. 20 tons of raw power tore through the air, flipping over stalls and sending plastic stools flying like autumn leaves. The big man closed his eyes, certain I was about to be turned into a red smear. Then came a dull thud. He opened his eyes and gasped. I was standing exactly where I had been. My right arm was extended, palm open. I had caught the rhino by the forehead with one hand. The massive momentum vanished instantly. Its back legs were still kicking frantically in the air, but its body was frozen in place. 20 tons, huh? Not bad, I muttered. The rhino thrashed, trying to impale my arm with its spikes. I tightened my grip. Crack. Its skull shattered like an eggshell. The beast went limp and slumped to the ground, dead. The man stared at me, his jaw hanging open. I hadn't even changed my expression. I looked more like someone who had just finished a satisfying meal than someone who had just killed a monster. Who are you? He stammered. A priest, I said, kneeling down. A priest? My ass. What kind of priest kills a level 1 beast with one hand? I reached into the rhino's chest and pulled out a dark red crystal. It was the size of a hen's egg, glowing with a faint light. A level 2 monster core. Back in the ancient days, cultivators would have killed each other for one of these. Now, with beasts everywhere, nobody wanted them because martial artists couldn't process the energy. But for me, this was pure fuel. A blue screen flickered in my vision. Spirit Official System, Level 3. Asterisk kill confirmed. Level 1 Armored Rhino. Reward, Level 2 Core X1, asterisk. Current realm, early stage Chi refining. Asterisk strength, 40 tons. Defense, 55 tons. Speed, 20m/s, asterisk. Note, your Spirit Official technique allows you to strike both physical and spiritual entities. I glanced at the stats and shoved the core into my pocket. Suddenly, another roar erupted from the abandoned buildings. Then another. The man's face turned white. There's more. I stood up and looked into the dark. 3 pairs of eyes. No, 5. 7. The man fumbled for his communicator. Marshal Bureau. This isn't a lone wolf. It's a pack. Requesting immediate backup at the East Side ruins. Special Ops dispatched. A voice crackled back. ETA 15 minutes. 15 minutes? The man's heart hammered against his ribs. 1 rhino had nearly killed him. 7 or 8 would wipe out everyone within half a mile. Priest, we have to buy time. Before he could finish, I was already walking into the darkness. Are you crazy? He yelled, trying to follow, but his legs gave out. A roar echoed from the shadows, followed by a series of heavy thuds. Asterisk bang. 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 Asterisk. I am a descendant of the great demon-slaying patriarch, my voice rang out. Die, you monsters. It sounded like someone hitting a heavy punching bag. 1 punch, 1 kill. The man listened to the sound of bones snapping, the wails of beasts, and the vibration of heavy bodies hitting the dirt. 30 seconds later, it was quiet. I walked back out of the shadows. My white tracksuit was covered in blood now. There was no saving it. I was holding a string of dark red crystals, at least 8 of them. My clothes. I fake wailed, looking down at the mess. You animals. Do you know how much detergent costs? The man lay on the ground, his entire worldview shattered. What are you? I blinked at him, then pointed toward the ruins. Tell the Bureau I took the mission. Make sure they wire the money to my account. I paused. Oh, and you guys wrecked that noodle stall. Make sure the boss gets paid for his losses. The man's communicator buzzed. Support is arriving. What's the status? Are the beasts still active? The man watched me walk away, clutching my string of cores. He swallowed hard. The beasts are all dead. What? Who killed them? The man stayed silent for a few seconds. A priest. There was a long silence on the other end. Finally, the operator spoke. Are you talking about that Han Yuan kid from the dojo? Yeah. The man whispered, staring at the shattered skull of the rhino. He said he knew ancient Taoist arts. We thought he was bragging. He wasn't. He's much, much worse. At the end of the street, I counted my cores and grinned. 9 of them. That was enough to fuel my cultivation for a while. I checked my bank balance on my phone. 43 yuan. Then I looked at the mission reward. 2,000 yuan. Finally, I could fix that damn roof. I thought about buying a new incense burner for my master's memorial tablet. Maybe tomorrow, when I went to the Marshal Bureau to collect my reward, I could even squeeze them for some shrine maintenance funds. My phone buzzed. It wasn't the Bureau. It was a text from an unknown number. Are you the true martial priest, Han Yuan? There's a commission in the South District. Reward is 50,000 yuan. You in? 50,000. My eyes practically turned into dollar signs. I stopped dead in my tracks and stared at the screen for 3 seconds before typing back a single word. In. The reply was instant. 9 p.m. tomorrow. Nanching Funeral Home. Don't be late. I didn't care who sent it. 50,000 yuan was 50,000 yuan. Only a total idiot would turn that down. I didn't know why they picked me, but I didn't question it. Ever since I touched that ancient manual in my master's belongings, the the spirit official system had awakened within me. Later that night, in the backyard of my dojo, I lay on a bench press. I was pushing a custom 10-ton barbell. 108 reps later, I wasn't even winded. To me, this was just a warm-up. The next night, I stood at the gates of the Nanxing funeral home right on time. My phone buzzed again. Priest Han, enter the main hall and head for the backyard. I pushed open the heavy doors. The place was deathly silent. Not a soul in sight. I turned right down a long corridor, passing rooms labeled Chrysanthemum Hall and Peony Hall. The air felt heavier with every step. When I reached the backyard, I saw a massive steel shipping container. The entire thing was covered in yellow paper talismans. The door was slightly ajar, and a wave of freezing, dark energy drifted out from the gap. I raised an eyebrow. You've got to be kidding me. A zombie. A sudden noise erupted behind me. I spun around to see a creature that looked half human, half ghost, clad in primitive animal skins. It let out a guttural growl. Holy crap! A real zombie! I shouted. The creature locked onto me and leaped 10 feet through the air. I stepped aside, letting it crash into the dirt. It hissed and lunged again. I didn't strike back yet. Instead, I pulled out my phone and started playing a game of cat and mouse, circling the shipping container while the zombie chased me. I quickly typed a text to my employer. * boss, the target is here. I'm starting the job. You better not stiff me on that 50,000. *. The zombie lunged again, claws reaching for my throat. This time, I didn't dodge. I reached out with one hand, grabbed the top of its head, and slammed it down with a surge of overwhelming force. Boom. The zombie's face smashed into the concrete, leaving a massive crater in the ground. It struggled wildly, its jagged nails catching the leg of my pants. I heard a sickening tear. My second-to-last tracksuit. I only had 2 left. Anger flared in my chest. I increased the pressure. Crack! Its skull shattered like an eggshell. The creature went limp. I let go and knelt to inspect it. It smelled strange, not like rotting meat, but like it had been soaked in some kind of chemical. I searched its animal skin clothes, but found nothing. Broke-ass ghost, I muttered. Meeting you was my bad luck. I stood up as footsteps echoed from a dark corner. A man stepped into the light. He was in his 60s, bald, and looking very nervous. It was Boss Chien, the man who hired me. Is it dead? He stammered. Dead as a doornail, I said, wiping my hands. Now, about my payment? Boss Chien reached into his jacket and pulled out a thick envelope. I took it, but the weight fell off. It was too light. Boss Chien, the amount isn't right, I said, not even opening it. He gave me a greasy smile. Little Han, listen. This is the market rate. 5,000 for a zombie, 10,000 for a ghost. Giving you 5,000 is already very generous. I stared at him, my eyes narrowing. So you lied to get me here? You're backing out on the deal. Don't put it like that, he said, sounding entitled. You're just a rogue priest. You're the only person left in that dojo. Do you know how much a registered martial artist from the bureau gets for a mission? 3,000. I'm giving you a bonus. I took a deep breath. Boss Chien, you're really trying to screw me over here, aren't you? That's all there is. Take it or leave it, he waved me off. I did my research. The bureau only gives you a 2,000 yuan subsidy a month for cultural preservation. This is 2 months' salary for you. Be grateful. I stayed silent for 2 seconds, then I let out a short, dry laugh. Fine. You're the boss. You're the big man. He was right about one thing. The bureau would have paid less. I stuffed the money in my pocket and turned to leave. That's more like it. Chin nodded, satisfied. I'll call you again when I have more work. I'm a fair man. I stopped at the edge of the yard and looked back. Boss Chien, what's in that shipping container? His face paled instantly. Nothing. Just an empty box. An empty box? I glanced at the yellow talismans. You seal empty boxes with high-level wards? That's from before. I forgot to clean it up. I didn't argue. I walked straight to the container and yanked the door open. Inside, more yellow paper hung from the ceiling. A ritual circle was drawn on the floor, and in the center sat a coffin. The lid was halfway off. It was empty, but the interior walls were covered in deep, frantic scratch marks, as if something had been trying to claw its way out. I knelt down, feeling a chill run down my spine. Boss Chien, I don't think this coffin was meant for that zombie I just killed. Chien stood at the door, his face twisted in anger. Han, don't ask questions you don't want the answers to. I shrugged. Fine. You can't save someone who's looking for death. Good luck. I walked out of the funeral home, but as soon as I crossed the front gate, a blood-curdling scream pierced the night. F. I cursed under my breath and sprinted back inside. I searched the entire backyard, but Boss Chien was gone. He had vanished into thin air. The only thing left in front of the container was a fresh, dark pool of blood. I figured he was done for, but that was a problem for the Marshal Bureau. I turned around and left for good this time. Once I was a safe distance away, I pulled out the 5,000 yuan to count it. The texture was wrong. I held a bill up to the moonlight. No watermark. I pulled another one. Same thing. I looked at the whole stack. Every single bill was a fake. You son of a... I stared at the 50 fake notes. They were so poorly printed you didn't even need a machine to tell. Chien, you greedy bastard. You can keep this money for the afterlife. I pulled out my lighter and set the whole stack on fire, watching the fake wealth turn to ash. Suddenly, my system interface popped up in front of my eyes. Spirit Official System, new mission. Objective: head to the abandoned school in the western suburbs and eliminate the low-level zombie. Time limit: 2 days. Asterisk reward: system level up to level 4. Strength increased to 55 tons. Defense increased to 75 tons. Unlock skill: soul seizing, asterisk. Note: you might not use soul seizing, but you must know how. I was about to head toward the suburbs when my phone buzzed again. A real notification this time. Asterisk bank deposit, 2,000 yuan. Remark: mutant rhino mission reward. Source: Haicheng Marshal Bureau, asterisk. Finally, some real money. Then, another text from an unknown number. Priest Han, there is something at the abandoned school in the western suburbs that needs your attention. Reward: 100,000 yuan. Come tonight. 100,000? After getting played by Boss Chien, I wasn't in the mood for more fairy tales. I dialed the number immediately. It picked up after 3 rings. Who is this? Priest Han, I'm Zhou Hang from the Marshal Bureau. The voice sounded young, maybe early 20s, and he sounded stressed. The mission at the school is urgent. The 100,000 is real. I blinked. The Bureau? Don't you guys have your own registered martial artists? Why call me? The martial artists. He paused, his voice dropping. They aren't right for this one. The young man named Zhou lowered his voice, his eyes darting around the shadows. That thing, it's a zombie. You're the best fit for this. The higher-ups approved 100,000 yuan reward. Just get it done. I thought about it for a second. Fine. Send me the address. After I hung up, I couldn't help but smirk. What a coincidence. The Marshal Bureau and my system mission were targeting the same thing. 100,000 yuan? Life was looking up. At 1 in the morning, I arrived at the abandoned school in the western suburbs. This place was notorious for being one of the most haunted spots in Haicheng. People said it was cursed, which is why the school moved away 8 years ago, leaving it to rot. I pushed open the rusted gates. The playground was swallowed by waist-high weeds. The teaching building loomed ahead, a dark monolith with shattered windows that looked like hollow eyes. Priest Han. A head popped out from the stairwell. It was a guy in his early 20s wearing thick glasses and a Marshal Bureau uniform. He was clutching a flashlight like a lifeline. Over here. I'm Zhou Hang, from the logistics department. I walked over to him. Where is it? Zhou Hang pointed a trembling finger toward the upper floors. 3rd floor. The very last classroom. We locked the door and applied the Bureau's official seals. It shouldn't be able to get out. Probably. I took a deep breath. Let's go. The stairwell was pitch black. Zhou Hang led the way, his flashlight beam dancing wildly because his legs were shaking so hard. Priest Han, he whispered. Are you sure you don't need to prepare? Maybe draw some charms or something. No need, I said. Then do you have a magical artifact? I patted the peachwood sword strapped to my back. Got it right here. Zhou Hang glanced at the sword, a 35 yuan piece of junk I'd bought at a street stall, and his lip twitched. Can you guys really catch zombies like in the movies? Don't be afraid, little comrade, I said, putting on my best serious face. I'm here. We reached the 3rd floor and walked down the long corridor to the last room. 3 yellow seals were plastered across the door, but one was already torn down the middle. I stared at the rip. When did you find this? This afternoon, Zhou Hang said. A scavenger found it. We don't know what level it is, but the seals won't hold much longer. The thing inside has been. Thud. The door groaned. Johang jumped back 2 steps. Asterisk thud. 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 Asterisk. The impact grew faster. The cracks in the door widened. The seals were flickering, losing their power. Priest Han. Johang's voice cracked. I stepped forward. I could feel the energy radiating through the wood. It was at least 3 times stronger than the one at the funeral parlor, but still manageable. Back up, Zhou. Get to the stairs. He didn't need to be told twice. He bolted to the stairwell, but kept his head peeked around the corner to watch. I didn't hesitate. I ripped the remaining seals off the door. Boom. The door exploded outward. A dark blur lunged at my face with incredible speed. I stepped to the side, my right hand flashing out like a whip. I grabbed the creature by the back of its neck and slammed it downward. Crash. The zombie's head smashed through the floor tiles. The entire corridor vibrated from the force. Johang stood there with his mouth hanging open, nearly dropping his flashlight. The zombie struggled, its jagged nails raking across my forearm. They left white streaks on my skin, but didn't draw blood. However, I heard a familiar sound. Rip. I looked at my torn sleeve. My anger flared instantly. I grabbed the zombie, hauled it out of the floor, and swung it like a rag doll against the wall. Crack. Half the wall collapsed. The zombie slumped to the ground, most of its bones shattered. It was still twitching, but it was done. Is that magic? Johang stammered. You're like a physical god. Did you walk off a different movie set or something? I ignored him and knelt by the zombie. I searched it, but it had nothing of value. Its clothes were so rotten I couldn't even tell what color they used to be. But then, I noticed a smell. It was a strange, chemical odor, exactly like the one at the funeral parlor. This zombie wasn't natural. It had been refined by someone. I stood up and brushed the dust off my clothes. All right, Zhou. It's handled. Make sure that 100,000 hits my account. Oh, right, yes. He nodded frantically, pulling out his phone. I'll report it now. The funds will be transferred tomorrow. I turned to leave, but stopped. By the way, have there been any missing persons around here lately? Johang blinked. How did you know? There were 3 disappearances in the western suburbs last month. The cases are still open. I glanced at the broken corpse on the floor. Check if those 3 people met anyone strange before they vanished. Specifically, outsiders. People into folk culture or anyone claiming to be a Taoist master. Johang's face went pale. Are you saying? I'm not saying anything. I interrupted. I get paid to do a job. The rest is your problem. I walked away, leaving him standing in the dark. As I reached the school gates, my system interface chimed. Mission complete. Earth-level zombie eliminated. Current level, 4, early stage chi refining. Strength, 55 tons. Defense, 75 tons. New skill unlocked. Soul seizing. Note, you might not use it, but you must know it. I looked at the new skill and frowned. Soul seizing sounds a bit shady. I'd probably be better off not using it. What worried me more was the smell. 2 zombies in 2 different places, both refined by a human hand. Someone was raising zombies in Haiching. I patted my pockets and headed for the bus stop. Whatever. Not my business. I had 2,000 yuan in the bank and 100,000 on the way. Life was good. As long as they didn't come to my temple, I didn't care. If they did, I'd show them what a descendant of the demon-slaying patriarch could really do. In the shadows near the school, a figure in a black trench coat watched me leave. He pulled out a phone. Boss, the zombie in the suburbs was taken out. By who? A voice asked. A priest from Jinwu Temple. Name's Hanjun. There was a long silence on the other end. Interesting. A little priest from a rundown temple killed my ironclad corpse? Should we take him out? No, the boss replied. Let him play for a few more days. The figure hung up and vanished into the darkness. The next morning at the temple, I was humming a tune while washing my clothes in the courtyard. Suddenly, the front door was kicked open with a loud bang. I looked up. 3 men in black training uniforms stood there. The leader was a middle-aged man in his 40s with bulging temples and his hands tucked behind his back. He scanned my dilapidated temple with pure contempt. You're Hanjun. I stood up, wiping my wet hands on my pants. That's me. Who are you? Chunwei, special consultant for the Martial Bureau. My eyes lit up. I stepped forward with a huge grin and an outstretched hand. A leader. Did you come to deliver my reward in person? Chunwei shoved my hand aside. You handled the zombie in the suburbs last night. I did, sir. It was nothing. Who authorized you to go? I blinked, confused. Zhou Hang from the bureau. He offered 100,000 yuan reward. You can check with him. Chunwei let out a cold sneer. Zhou Hang? That low-level clerk in logistics? What does he know? He stepped closer, glaring at me. That zombie was a specimen the bureau intended to capture alive for research. You killed it. Do you have any idea how much damage you've caused? Wait, I said. Capture it alive? That thing was a man-eater. The bureau has its ways, a younger man behind Chunwei snapped. We don't need a stray priest meddling in our business. My expression went cold. So let me guess. You're here because you want me to pay. Compensation is mandatory. Chunwei pulled a piece of paper from his pocket and slapped it into my hand. This is an official citation. For the unauthorized destruction of a B-class mission target, a fine of 200,000 yuan and a 3-month suspension of your credentials. I looked at the paper, folded it slowly, and tucked it into my pocket. I can't afford the fine, I said flatly. Chunwei narrowed her eyes, a predatory glint appearing in them. If you can't pay, then hand over the management rights to this temple. The Marshal Bureau can offer you an official position in logistics. 4,000 yuan a month. Stable pay, steady work. I finally realized what these three were actually here for. They didn't want my money. They wanted the Jinwu Temple. Consultant Chun, I said, a small smile playing on my lips. This temple was left to me by my master. It's not for sale. We aren't asking you to sell it, the young man behind her sneered. We're telling you to hand it over. You're just a poor priest who didn't even finish college. You think you can protect a temple with hundreds of years of history? It belongs in the hands of the state. I looked at the kid. What's your name? He puffed out his chest. Zhang Rue. Postnatal realm, initial stage. What's it to you? Not happy about it. I ignored him and turned back to Chunwei. Consultant Chun, I took the commission for that zombie in the western suburbs. I finished the job. The 100,000 yuan reward was approved by the bureau. Now you're telling me I was meddling? That doesn't seem right. Whether it's right or not isn't up to you. Chunwei said, her voice dropping an octave. Hanjun, I'll ask you one last time. Are you paying the fine? Are you handing over the temple? I shook my head, my expression calm. Chunwei sighed, feigning regret. Then don't blame me for being impolite. She stepped back and gave Zhang Rue a sharp nod. Zhang Rue grinned, stepped forward, and dropped into a fighting stance. Hanjun, I heard you know some ancient Taoist arts, Zhang Rue mocked. Let's see what you've got. You're going to hit me? I asked. Not hit you, Zhang Rue chuckled. I'm going to teach you the rules. He lunged. His fist cut through the air with a sharp whistle, aiming straight for my face. A practitioner at his level had at least 12 tons of striking force. I tilted my head. The fist grazed my ear, hitting nothing but air. Zhang Rue blinked, stunned for a split second, before following up with a second punch. It was fast and mean. I stepped back, dodging again. Why are you hiding? Zhang Rue taunted. Where are those arts of yours? Show me your little tricks. I sighed. Honestly, I had planned to put on a show. I was going to chant some fake spells and wave my fingers around just to humiliate them. But these people weren't here for a debate. They were here to bully me. Acting was a waste of time. I pulled the fine notice out of my pocket and slowly folded it into a paper airplane. Zhang Rue. Chunwei. I held the paper airplane to my lips and blew on it. Then, with a casual flick of my finger, I sent it flying. It started off slow, drifting lazily through the air. Zhang Rue reached out to catch it with a smirk. Suddenly, the paper airplane accelerated. It moved so fast it became a blur. Bang! It hit Zhang Rue's chest like a speeding truck. He went airborne, smashed right through the wooden door of the temple, and tumbled down the stone steps outside. He coughed up a mouthful of blood and blacked out instantly. Chunwei's eyes nearly popped out of her head. The other young martial artist stood there, frozen in shock. I stayed where I was, my hand still in the flicking position. Oops, I didn't control my strength well enough, I said, looking at my fingers with an innocent shrug. Chunwei stared at me, the veins on her forehead bulging. You? Consultant Chun, I interrupted, smiling. How was that for a little trick? Chunwei took a deep breath. Her internal energy exploded, the pressure of a mid-stage postnatal expert washing over the courtyard. I didn't move an inch. Kid, you think knowing a few unorthodox spells makes you special? She hissed. I don't care what your master taught you. Today, you are giving up this temple whether you want to or not. She stepped forward, shattering the floor tiles beneath her boots. Her fist roared toward me. Mid-stage postnatal strength, at least 30 tons of force. If that hit, the entire front yard would collapse. I didn't dodge. I simply opened my palm and caught her fist. Slap. The impact was muffled. Her fist stopped dead in my hand. Her internal energy vanished instantly, unable to flow. Her face went pale. My fingers felt like iron clamps around her knuckles. Consultant Chun, I said, my smile never wavering. You said you wanted me to hand over the temple. I think you've misunderstood the situation. I tightened my grip. Asterisk crack. Crack. Asterisk. The bones in her hand began to groan and snap. Her face turned beet red, and sweat poured down her face. She bit her lip, refusing to scream. How is this possible? She stammered, her voice trembling. You don't have any internal energy fluctuations at all. I didn't answer. I let go. She stumbled back 3 steps, staring at her deformed right hand in pure disbelief. Consultant Shin, take a message back for me, I said, dusting off my hands. Jinwu Temple was left to me by my ancestors. It doesn't matter who comes asking. It's staying with me. If the Bureau thinks I'm not qualified, tell them to come talk to me themselves. Don't send trash like you. Her face was ashen. She and the other martial artist grabbed the unconscious Zhang Rue and scrambled away. I stood at the gate, watching their car disappear. My system panel popped up in front of my eyes. Asterisk Spirit Officer System, Level 4. Current strength, 55 tons. Defense, 75 tons. Speed, 25 meters per second. Asterisk. Host. The system's voice echoed in my head. You could have crushed her hand entirely. Why didn't you? I looked at the panel and smiled. System, you don't get it. This world isn't just about fighting and killing. It's about how you handle people. That's what my master taught me. I sat back down to finish my laundry, but something bothered me. Shinwei said the zombie was a B-class target, but my system had labeled it D-class. The system was never wrong. That meant either Chunwei was lying, or someone had intentionally changed the rating from D to B. Why? To create an excuse to seize the temple. I tossed the wet clothes into the basin and stood up, looking at the statue of the great ancestor in the main hall. Old ancestor, did you have to deal with this kind of nonsense back in your day? The statue didn't answer. I pulled out my phone and texted Zhou Hang, the logistics clerk. Hey Zhou, what was the internal bureau rating for that zombie in the suburbs? A minute later, the reply came, asterisk D-class. Why Daoist Han? Asterisk. I stared at the screen for a few seconds. Asterisk nothing. Just curious. Asterisk. I turned off the phone and looked up at the sky. Under the eaves of the hall, the wind chimes gave a sudden, sharp ring. I laughed. Interesting. Looks like someone is trying to play me. Meanwhile, on the top floor of a luxury office building in Haicheng, Chinwei stood by a window. Her right hand was wrapped in thick bandages. Her face was grim. Boss, the kid really knows some weird arts, she said into her phone. It's eerie. The voice on the other end asked a question. I'm sure, Chinwei hissed. He has 0 energy signature, but he caught my punch with one hand. His strength is at least 50 tons. And he's only 19. The person on the other end laughed. 50 tons? Interesting. Jinwu Temple is hiding some deep secrets. Boss, should we? No need. I'll meet him myself. The line went dead. Chunwei looked out at the city lights and shivered. She couldn't stop thinking about the look in my eyes when I caught her fist. It wasn't the look of a normal person. The next day, I had just finished my laundry. Before I could even hang it up to dry, I heard a massive bang. The front gate of the temple was kicked open, again. I looked at the fresh hole in the wood, right next to the one I'd patched yesterday. I took a deep breath. Do people think this place is a public toilet? I muttered. 3 people stood at the entrance. The leader was a woman in her 20s, wearing a black professional suit with short, sharp hair. She had the eyes of a natural leader. Behind her were 2 young martial artists in bureau uniforms, carrying silver medal cases. Hanjun, the woman asked, stepping into the courtyard. Her eyes lingered on the statue of the ancestor for a moment. I stood up and wiped the water off my hands. That's me. And you are? Shin Bing, Chief of Operations, Haiching Branch of the Martial Bureau. My eyes lit up. I wiped my hands on my pants again and ran over with a huge grin. Chief Shin, what an honor. Please, come in, sit down. Let me get you some tea. No need, Shin Bing said, cutting me off. She pulled a folded piece of paper from her pocket and opened it. Han Jun, yesterday you injured consultant Chen Wei and her associate, Zhang Rui. Zhang Rui has 3 broken ribs. Chen Wei has multiple comminuted fractures in the 4 metacarpal bones of her right hand. Shin Bing continued, her voice cold as ice. She slid a document across the table. This is a detention warrant. You're coming with us. I froze. Chief Shun, they started it. It was self-defense. Save it for the Bureau, she replied. One of the young martial artists behind her stepped forward, his hand resting firmly on a heavy metal case. I looked at the warrant, then at Shun Bing's stony expression. I knew I couldn't win an argument here. I let out a short laugh. Fine, I'll go. Before leaving, I turned back into the Hall of True Martial Arts. I lit a stick of incense for the great ancestor and whispered under my breath, Old ancestor, please look out for me. Don't let these people beat a confession out of me. A short while later, I was sitting in an interrogation room at the Haiching Martial Bureau. A bright desk lamp was pointed directly at my face. Shin Bing sat across from me, accompanied by a man operating a recorder and a young martial artist taking notes. Han Jun, Shin Bing started. Tell us about yesterday. I leaned back in the chair, trying to look as innocent as possible. Chief Shun, I really didn't hit them. That guy Zhang Rui attacked first. I just dodged, and he couldn't stop his own momentum. He slammed into the door frame and fell. Hard. Shin Bing stared at me. He fell and broke 3 ribs. Maybe he has osteoporosis? I suggested. The young guy taking notes almost choked on a laugh. Shin Bing shot him a death glare before turning back to me. And consultant Chen Wei's hand. I have no idea, I said, keeping a straight face. Maybe she fell too, or maybe she crushed it herself. She threw a punch. I caught it, and I think she felt embarrassed. She probably squeezed her own hand to frame me for a payout. Han Jun, Shin Bing's voice dropped an octave. This is the Martial Bureau, not a comedy club. I stopped smiling. Chief Shin, I'm telling the truth. They came to seize my temple. I said no. Zhang Rui attacked, I defended. Chen Wei attacked, I defended. Not once did I initiate an assault. You caught a punch from a mid-stage Hotian martial artist, Shin Bing said, her eyes searching mine. My master taught me a few Taoist tricks, I replied simply. Shin Bing was silent for a moment. She pulled a file from her folder and pushed it toward me. This is Chen Wei's report. She claims you use evil arts and can crush bones through the air. She's recommending we classify you as a high-risk target and restrict your movement. I flipped through the report and chuckled. Evil arts? She thinks I'm a warlock. I put the paper down and looked her in the eye. Chief Shin, you have my file. I was abandoned at birth and raised by my master. I live on a 2,000 yuan monthly stipend as a cultural relics caretaker. If I had evil arts, would I really be this broke? Shin Bing didn't answer. Think about it, I continued. Crushing bones with a thought? Does that sound scientific? I'm 19. I didn't even go to college. Where would I learn something like that? So, do you know Taoist arts or not? She asked. I thought about it. A little. My master taught me how to draw talismans, chant, and drive away spirits. It's a traditional craft. Been around for 10,000 years. Prove it. I blinked. How? Shin Bing nodded to the young martial artist. He opened the metal case and pulled out a palm-sized glass jar. Inside, a swirl of black mist churned violently, occasionally forming a distorted, screaming face. This is an Earth-grade vengeful spirit we caught at the South City shelter, Shin Bing explained. Physical martial arts don't work on it. We can only keep it trapped in this sealing jar. If you're a true Taoist, destroy it. I looked at the spirit and frowned. Talk about being put on the spot. If I just slapped it into oblivion in front of a chief and a camera, it wouldn't look like Taoism. It would look like a god-level superpower. I had to play the part. Fine, I said, but don't complain if I get a bit loud. I stood up, grabbed the detention warrant from the table, and started folding it into a paper crane. Shin Bing and the assistant watched me like I was crazy. I pulled a red marker from my pocket and scribbled some messy, crooked runes on the paper. Honestly, it was total gibberish. I didn't actually know any talismans. Heavenly mystery, root of all things. I began chanting with fake seriousness. I pinched my fingers together and pointed at the crane. Go. The paper crane didn't move. I cleared my throat awkwardly and tried again. Still nothing. Shinbing's expression was turning sour. I gritted my teeth, picked up the crane, and blew on it. As I did, I secretly funneled a tiny thread of spiritual energy into it. The crane took flight, wobbling through the air like it was drunk. It drifted over to the glass jar and tapped the rim with its wing. Crack! The glass shattered. The spirit lunged out, screaming silently as it flew straight for my face. I didn't flinch. I pressed my index and middle fingers against the spirit's forehead. Disperse. A spark of pure energy surged through my fingertips. The spirit reacted like it had been touched by white-hot iron. The black mist evaporated instantly, vanishing into nothingness within 2 seconds. The room went dead silent. The assistant dropped his pen. Shinbing just stared at the empty space where the ghost had been. I pulled my hand back and sighed, pretending to be exhausted. Chief Shin, you see? It's a specialized technique for dealing with spirits, not an evil art. After a long silence, Shinbing spoke. What was that move called? I racked my brain. I couldn't let her know it was raw spiritual power. Oh, that? My master called it the Mystic Sun Finger. It's specifically for suppressing dark entities. Asterisk, the system in my head chimed in. You're calling that the Mystic Sun Finger? Fine. Whatever makes you happy. Asterisk. Shinbing stood up and walked over to me. Hanjun, are you interested in joining the Martial Bureau? Huh. A formal position, she said quickly. Starting salary is $15,000 a month. Full benefits, bonuses, paid vacation. Your temple can stay under your name, and the Bureau will even pay for the renovations. You only show up when we have a mission. It was a tempting offer, but I remembered my master's words. The temple belongs to no one. If I tied it to an institution, its spirit would be lost. Chief Shin, thank you, I said, smiling. But the temple is my master's legacy. I'm not looking to sign it away just yet. She didn't push it. I'll look into the detention incident. Shen Wei's report is suspicious anyway. Someone tampered with the internal rating of that zombie in the western suburbs. I'm already investigating. My eyes lit up. So I can go? Yes, she nodded. On one condition. Whenever there's a ghost, zombie, or spirit in Haiching that our martial artists can't handle, you take the job. We'll pay you Class A rates. Minimum 30,000 per mission. I grinned ear to ear. Chief Shen, that's not a condition. That's a gift. She actually let out a tiny, rare smile. She was actually quite pretty when she wasn't trying to arrest me. Don't get too excited. These missions are dangerous. If you die, the Bureau takes the temple by default. Don't worry, I said, patting my chest. I'm harder to kill than I look. I walked out of the Bureau and checked my bank balance. 2,000 yuan. I hadn't even made it home when my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Asterisk, Taoist Hanjun, I heard you have a Mystic Sun Finger. I need help. The reward is 500,000. Asterisk, 500,000. I stared at the screen, my heart racing. I quickly typed back. Asterisk, what's the job? Asterisk. The reply came instantly. Asterisk, the Wong family estate in the northern suburbs. It's haunted. Martial artists go in, but they don't come out. The mission is already registered with the Bureau. Meet me at the North Suburb intersection tomorrow at 8 p.m. I'll bring cash. Asterisk. I didn't hesitate. Asterisk, you found the right man. See you then. Asterisk, I stepped out of the taxi wearing my navy blue Taoist robes. Over my shoulder, I carried a brand new peachwood sword. This wasn't some cheap street stall junk. Zhou Hang had hooked me up with the Martial Bureau's logistics department. I got the insider price of 280 yuan, and the thing was officially consecrated. A black luxury car pulled up to the curb. The window rolled down, revealing a man in his 40s with gold-rimmed glasses and a sharp suit. He looked like a successful businessman. Taoist Han, he said. I'm Boss Wong. Get in. I pulled open the back door and froze. 2 men were already sitting there. One was a bald guy with a dragon tattoo snaking over his shoulder, his muscles stretching his shirt to the breaking point. The other was tall and thin with triangular eyes, a cigarette dangling from his lip and his hands buried in his pockets. I felt it immediately, the ripple of internal energy. Martial artists. Boss Wong, who are these two? I asked. Bodyguards I hired, he replied. The bald guy grinned, showing off a gold tooth. Taoist Han, I've heard a lot about you. Heard you catch ghosts. His tone was polite, but his eyes were full of mockery. I just smiled and didn't say a word. I got in. We drove toward the northern suburbs. The further we went, the more deserted it got. The streetlights became few and far between. Boss Wong, what's the deal with this ancestral estate? I asked. He looked back from the passenger seat. I'll be blunt, Taoist Han. That house has been haunted for 3 months. I've sent in 5 groups of people. All of them stayed inside. 5 groups. 3 Taoists and 2 martial artists, Wong said, holding up his fingers. The Taoists went in and never came out. The martial artists came out, but they were completely insane. They just kept screaming, "Don't come here," over and over. They're still locked in the mental asylum. I frowned. The Martial Bureau didn't step in. They did. They sent 4 people. When they came out, 1 was missing. After that, they sealed the place off. Then why hire me? Wong smiled thinly. That house is the Wong family ancestral home. There are things hidden inside that are very important to me. He didn't elaborate. The car stopped in front of an old estate with gray bricks and stone lions at the gate. A gold leaf plaque above the door read, Wong Manor. It looked ancient. 3 Martial Bureau seals were plastered across the door, just like the ones I'd seen at the abandoned school. I walked up and touched the seals. Boss Wong, the seals are intact. Whatever is inside hasn't come out. I know, Wong said, pushing up his glasses. But I need to go in. Then let's go? Just tear the seals off. Wong didn't move. He glanced at the bald guy. The big man pulled a silver metal case from the car and opened it. Inside were neat stacks of red bills. 500,000 yuan. This is the deposit, Wong said. Another 50,000 when we're done. $1 million total. My heart did a little dance, but I kept my face stone cold. I looked at Wong. I'm not a greedy man. My main goal is to vanquish evil. It's my duty. Fine. Let's go. I turned and ripped the seals off. Snap. A gust of cold, ghostly wind drifted through the crack in the door. The bald guy shivered and cursed. The thin guy finally took his hands out of his pockets, gripping a black short blade. I pushed the heavy doors open. The courtyard was pitch black. Flashlights, Wong ordered. The bald guy clicked on a high-powered beam. The moment the light hit the courtyard, everyone froze. 7 people were standing there. No, not people. Paper dolls. They were cut from red paper with facial features painted on. 2 black dots for eyes and an upturned, smiling mouth. The 7 paper dolls stood in a circle, facing inward. In the center of the circle sat a coffin. The lid was halfway open. This. Wong's face went white. This wasn't here last time. I walked over and crouched by the coffin. The inner walls were covered in deep, frantic scratch marks. It was exactly like the coffin in the container back at the funeral home. Boss Wong, I said, standing up. You'd better tell me the truth. What exactly is hidden in this house? Wong opened his mouth, but said nothing. The bald guy stepped forward, blocking my path to his boss. Taoist Han, your job is to catch ghosts, not ask questions. As soon as he finished speaking, the wind howled. The 7 paper dolls turned their heads simultaneously to look at us. Their paper mouths split open, revealing pitch-black voids. High-pitched, piercing laughter echoed from all directions. It sounded like nails dragging across glass. The bald guy's face changed. He exploded with internal energy and threw a punch at the nearest doll. The doll shattered into pieces. But the scraps of paper just drifted in the air and fused back together. The laughter got louder. This thing won't die, the bald guy yelled. The thin guy swung his blade, which was glowing with blue energy. He sliced a doll in half, but the 2 halves just grew into 2 separate dolls. Internal energy is useless. His voice was shaking. Wong's legs went weak. He had to lean on the coffin to stay upright. Han. Taoist Han. I sighed. I had planned to put on a show, chant some spells, draw some talismans, make it look like I was working hard. But these 7 dolls weren't regular ghosts. Someone was using evil arts to sustain them. If I didn't destroy them completely, they'd just keep regenerating. I couldn't fake this one. Fine. No more acting. I took a step forward. The 7 dolls turned toward me, their mouths splitting open all the way to their ears. The laughter reached a deafening shriek. I reached out, fingers spread, and aimed at the lead doll. I made a sudden gripping motion. Crunch. The doll's head was crushed by the force of the 5 elements. Before the scraps could reform, a wave of spiritual energy packed with my blood essence pulverized them into dust. The remaining 6 dolls sensed the danger. The laughter stopped instantly. They turned to run. I didn't give them the chance. I slammed my palm into the ground. Boom! The courtyard tiles shattered. A shock wave of spiritual energy erupted from my palm, radiating outward. The 6 dolls were caught in the blast and disintegrated instantly, their fragments burning into ash before they even hit the ground. Silence returned to the courtyard. The bald guy stood there with his mouth hanging open. The thin guy had collapsed to the floor, staring in disbelief. Wong was still clutching the coffin, his glasses crooked. I stood up and brushed the dust off my robes. I looked at them innocently. Boss Wong, the ghosts are gone. About the fee. A dull thud came from inside the coffin. Thump. I turned my head. Thump. Thump. A hand reached out. The skin was blackened, the nails long and jagged. It gripped the edge of the coffin and hauled the body up. A zombie sat up, wearing tattered clothes and smelling of rot. It looked like the one from the western suburbs, but its aura was 10 times stronger. The zombie opened its eyes. They were blood red. It stared at me and let out a guttural roar. The bald guy was blown back 3 steps by the sound, his face pale. Is that an ironclad corpse? I glanced at my system panel. Divine Official System. Level 4. Early Stage Chi Refining. Strength, 55 tons. Current target, ironclad corpse. Strength, 40 tons. A little note added. He can't beat you, but your clothes are going to suffer again. I took a deep breath. The ironclad corpse leaped from the coffin, cracking the ground where it landed. It lunged at me with incredible speed, at least 30 meters per second. I twisted my body to dodge the frontal assault, but its claws caught my sleeve. Rip, a huge chunk of my Taoist robe was torn away. I looked down at my bare arm, then at the piece of fabric on the ground. I went silent. 2 seconds later, I looked up at the zombie. My expression had changed. I was still smiling, but it was the kind of smile that made the bald guy instinctively back away. This robe, I said softly. My master left it for me. The ironclad corpse snarled, baring its fangs. Do you have any idea how long my master had to save up to buy me this robe? The zombie lunged again. This time, I didn't dodge. I reached out and grabbed the ironclad corpse by the head. My fingers tightened. Asterisk crunch. 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 Asterisk. The sound of the skull cracking was thick and rapid, like a string of firecrackers going off. The ironclad corpse's arms were still flailing wildly, but my expression didn't change. I put all my strength into my palm and pressed down. Bang! The zombie was finished. Its body went limp and crashed to the floor. I let go, wiped my hand, and turned back to Boss Wong. Boss Wong, I said calmly. 1 million. Boss Wong swallowed hard. His hands were shaking so much he could barely function as he opened the metal briefcase. He pushed 500,000 in cash toward me. Taoist Han, this is the deposit. I'll have someone deliver the rest to the temple. Fine, I replied. I took the case and turned to leave. At the door, I paused for a second. Boss Wong, a word of advice. There's something else under this house. Something much more dangerous than an ironclad corpse. You'd better not come back here. And next time you call me, the price goes up. I stepped out of the gate and vanished into the night. Back in the courtyard, the bald guy and the tall guy stared at each other, the terror visible in their eyes. Boss Wong, the bald guy stammered. Who the hell is that kid? Boss Wong stared at the direction I had disappeared, took off his glasses, and wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. It doesn't matter who he is. Just make sure you never provoke him. As I walked back toward Jinwu Temple with the cash, my system panel popped up. Asterisk Divine Official System Mission issued. Briefing, uncover the hidden secret beneath the Wong family estate. Deadline, 7 days. Reward, reach level 5. Strength increase, 55 tons to 75 tons. Defense increase, 75 tons to 100 tons. Unlock, light body technique. Asterisk a small note added. Someone is actually farming corpses this time. I looked at the mission, then at the cash in my hand, and smiled. Finally, I had enough to renovate the temple. The next day, my phone vibrated. It was a message from the Marshal Bureau. Asterisk, Dear Taoist Han, you have received a commission payment. Please pay 20% personal income tax, 200,000 yuan, within 3 days. Asterisk. I froze, staring at the screen. 200,000? I looked down at the briefcase full of red bills at my feet, then back at the phone. My smile slowly died. System, I whispered. Can I skip the taxes? The system suggests against it, the panel replied. The Marshal Bureau has specialized tax enforcement martial artists. Last month, they caught a high-level master for tax evasion. Asterisk, he's currently in prison working a sewing machine. Note, paying taxes is every citizen's duty. Asterisk. I took a deep breath, packed the money back up, and headed to the Marshal Bureau's service hall. Behind the counter sat a young, pretty girl. Her badge said she was an intern named Lin Xiaoyu. Hello, she said. How can I help you? I'm here to pay taxes. I thudded the briefcase onto the counter and opened it. Lin Xiaoyu's eyes went wide. So much. 200,000. Commission tax, I said, forcing a smile. She swallowed and started counting. Her fingers flew, the bills rustling rhythmically. Halfway through, she stopped and looked up at me. Taoist Han, was this commission for the Wang family estate? I frowned. How do you know? She lowered her voice. Our internal system has a record. That mission was S rank. Did you really complete it alone? I did. She hesitated. But the system shows there were at least 3 ironclad corpses detected under that estate. You cleared them all by yourself? I went still. Are you sure it was 3? She turned the screen toward me. The record clearly stated, asterisk 3 high-energy reactions detected. Suspected ironclad corpses X3. Recommendation, dispatch a team led by a mid-stage master, asterisk. I stared at the screen, a chill creeping down my spine. Where were the other 2? Taoist Han, Lin Xiaoyu called out. Oh, I snapped back to reality. It's nothing. Keep counting. While she worked, I texted Zhou Hang. The Bureau detected 3 zombies at the Wang estate. A minute later, he replied. Yeah, that's why the pay was S rank. Why? Nothing, I replied and shut off my phone. My mind was racing. I had only killed 1. Either Boss Wang was lying, the Bureau's equipment was broken, or someone had moved the other 2 before I got there. Lin Xiaoyu finished and handed me a receipt. All done, Taoist Han. I checked my balance. After taxes, I had 300,000 left. Adding the Bureau's upcoming payment, it was just enough to fix the temple, but I'd be broke again immediately after. Taoist Han, Lin Xiaoyu called out as I turned to leave. Can I add you as a friend? I blinked. Why? My grandfather visited your temple years ago. He said the prayers there were very effective. I want to go pay my respects. I smiled and pulled out my phone. Sure. Scan me. As soon as we connected, my phone buzzed. It wasn't from her. It was an unknown number. Taoist Han, I heard you took the Wang estate job. Some things aren't meant for you to touch. You have 3 days to hand over what you took from that house. Otherwise, Zhengmu Temple won't survive. I stared at the text, my brow furrowing. Threatening me? I texted back immediately. Who is this? It showed as read, but no reply came. I sent another. If you want something, bring money. If you don't have cash, don't talk to me. Still no reply. I shoved the phone in my pocket and walked out. A black SUV was waiting at the curb. The window rolled down, revealing Xinbing. Get in, she said. I hopped into the passenger seat. Director Shun, were you waiting for me? She didn't answer, just started the car and drove toward the outskirts. We detected 3 ironclad corpses under that house. You only fought 1. Where are the other 2? You're asking me? I leaned back. I was going to ask you if your equipment needs replacing. She glanced at me. The equipment isn't broken. That means someone went in before you and took them. Who? I shrugged. I don't know, but someone just threatened me, telling me to hand over what I took from the house. Her eyes sharpened. What did you take? Nothing. I didn't even touch the coffins. I just killed the one that jumped me. Xinbing was silent for a moment, then pulled the car over. Hanjun, there's something I haven't told you. I'm listening. 17 people have gone missing in the city over the last 3 months. I froze. The public records only say 3. The other 14 were suppressed, she said coldly. They all have one thing in common. They were last seen within 3 kilometers of the Wang estate. She handed me a file. It was full of photos. Men, women, young and old. The last photo made me stop. I recognized him. It was old Lu, a traveling Taoist who used to visit my master. Old Lu is missing too. I asked softly. 2 months ago. He went to the north suburbs for a ritual and never came back. I stared at the photo for a long time. Director Shun, you want me to investigate this? It's not about what I want, she said, restarting the car. Someone has already targeted you. If you don't find them, you're just waiting to die. She dropped me off at the temple gates. My system panel flashed. Host emotions are unstable. Suggestion, cultivate. Strength is the only solution to all problems. I looked at the screen and let out a dry laugh. You're right, system. I walked into the courtyard, took off my torn robe, and folded it neatly in front of my master's memorial tablet. Then, I headed to the backyard. I didn't stop at 108 reps with the 10-ton barbell. I did another 108 right after. My breath didn't even hitch. My body felt like a well-oiled machine, fueled by a power I was only beginning to understand. My phone vibrated on the bench. It was a message from Lin Xiaoyu. Taoist Han, I want to come to Jinwu Temple tomorrow to offer incense. Is that okay? I typed back a single word, come. Then I thought of the state of my home and added another message. By the way, do you know anyone who can repair ancient buildings? This temple needs a renovation. Lin Xiaoyu replied instantly. My uncle does exactly that. He's an engineer at the Marshall Bureau's Institute of Ancient Architecture. My eyes lit up. Helping that girl out was already paying off. Meanwhile, on the top floor of a high-end office building in Haicheng, Chen Wei stood by a floor-to-ceiling window. Her right hand was wrapped in thick bandages. A man in a black trench coat stood behind her, his presence cold and suffocating. The boss said if you don't have the item within 3 days, don't bother coming back, the man said. Chen Wei's face went pale. But that kid, what happened with him? The boss has his own plans for the boy, the man interrupted. You just do your job. Chen Wei bit her lip, her knuckles white. I understand. The man turned to leave, but paused at the door. One more thing. The boss asked me to confirm something with you. What? Are you absolutely sure that kid was using some kind of countdown technique? Chen Wei froze. She remembered the sheer force of my hand catching her punch. There had been no ripple of inner energy, no trace of a spell. It was pure, raw strength, but it felt more refined, more concentrated than any martial artist's power she had ever felt. I'm not sure, she admitted, her voice trembling. The man let out a cold laugh and walked out. Left alone, Chen Wei pulled out her phone and stared at the text I'd sent her earlier. Asterisk if you want the stuff, bring money. If you don't have cash, don't talk to me. Asterisk. To her, I wasn't just a poor Taoist anymore. I was a monster wearing a Taoist skin. Back at the temple, my phone buzzed again. The final payment for my last mission had cleared. 500,000 yuan. My balance now sat at 800,000 and 2,000 yuan. The next morning, Lin Xiaoyu arrived at the gates carrying 2 bags of fruit. She looked up at the roof, where a third of the tiles were missing. Taoist Han, your temple is really historic, she said tactfully. I took the fruit and laughed. It's a cultural heritage site. We call this the weathered look. It looks like it leaks, she countered. Her uncle, Zhao Gong, followed her in. He was wearing a jumpsuit and a hard hat, carrying a professional toolbox. He looked like a man who actually knew how to work. He climbed a ladder, circled the roof, and came back down while tapping away on a calculator. Taoist Han, this is a massive job, Zhao Gong said. The Hall of the 3 Pure Ones, the Hall of Jinwu, the Hall of the Thunder Ancestor. Every single building needs work. Including labor and materials, I can do it for 790,000 yuan. 790,000. My heart twinged at the number, but I kept my face neutral. I did the math. 800,000 minus 790 left me with 12,000. It was a steep price, but for the sake of the ancestors who built this place, it had to be done. Deal, I said. Let's do it. Zhao Gong blinked. You're not going to haggle? No. I trust you. He grinned. All right then. I'll get the materials ready and start the day after tomorrow. As they left, a black SUV pulled up. Xin Bing stepped out, holding a tablet. New mission? I asked. Not exactly, she said, handing me the screen. It was surveillance footage from 3 in the morning. The location was the front gate of the Wang family estate. 3 figures were walking out, each carrying a heavy black bag. These are Chun Wei's people, Shinbing explained. What were they taking? I frowned. We don't know yet. But look at this. She zoomed in on the third person's hand. A piece of yellow paper was sticking out of the bag. It was identical to the seals I'd seen on the coffins at the funeral home. Is Chun Wei raising corpses? I asked. Shinbing shook her head. She doesn't have the skill. Someone is behind her. I remembered the threatening text I'd received. Director Shun, you didn't come here just to show me a video. She looked me straight in the eye. Han Jun, if I told you the Marshal Bureau can't touch the person behind Chun Wei, would you believe me? You're a government agency. How can you not touch them? They have legal status, institutional protection, and powerful backing, she said grimly. All our leads point to one person, but the evidence always gets cut off at the source. Who is it? Shinbing hesitated for a moment. Zhou Hang. I stared at her. Zhou Hang from the logistics department? The one who gave me the mission. Yes, Shinbing nodded. The zombie mission at the school, the high-paying job at the Wang estate. She set those up. You thought she was helping you? She was using you as a white glove to do her dirty work. You killed the zombies, and she collected the spoils. The corpse core, I whispered. A core from an armored zombie could sell for 2 million on the black market. I never cared about them because they didn't help with my specific cultivation, but for others, they were priceless. What do you want me to do? I asked. Shinbing handed me an envelope. There's a private auction tomorrow night in the eastern suburbs. Zhou Hang will be there. The main item is a 10,000-year-old preserved corpse. She wants to buy it. You want me to steal it? No. I want you to confirm who she's buying it for. I opened the envelope. Inside was an invitation and 10,000 yuan in cash for expenses. No weapons or martial artists are allowed inside, Shinbing said. But you can go because you're a Taoist. Also wear this. She handed me a tiny pinhole camera. Collect evidence so they can't lie their way out of it later. I looked at the camera and then at her. You're turning me into an undercover agent, Director? She actually smiled. Are you unwilling? I'm willing, I said, tucking the invitation into my pocket. But it'll cost you extra. After she left, I sat on the threshold of the main hall. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Zhou Hang. Taoist Han, are you free tomorrow? I have a job. 20,000 yuan. I stared at the screen. She was still trying to play me. I'm free, I replied. 7 p.m. tomorrow. East Suburb Hotel. Contact me when you arrive. I put the phone away and my system panel flickered to life. Asterisk Spirit Official System, Level 4. Chi Refining Stage. Strength, 55 tons. Defense, 75 tons. Speed, 25 meters per second. Note, tomorrow night, you might have to fight more than one person. I looked at the stats and laughed. Let them come. My clothes were already ruined anyway. One more fight wouldn't hurt. The next night, I arrived at the hotel wearing a new traditional suit with my peach wood sword strapped to my back. Zhou Hang met me at the entrance, wearing a gray suit and glasses, looking as friendly as ever. Taoist Han, you made it. Come inside. She led me into a lavishly decorated auction hall. About 20 people were seated at circular tables. At the very front, a massive iron cage sat covered by a thick cloth. Is this the auction? I whispered. A private one, Zhou Hang replied softly. Everyone here is a heavy hitter in Haiqing. The prize tonight is that 10,000-year-old corpse. They say he was a Foundation establishment cultivator in his past life. I looked at the cage, and my skin began to crawl. This wasn't just an auction. It was a trap. I didn't let any of my suspicion show on my face. I kept my expression neutral as I looked at the massive cage. You actually believe in all that cultivation stuff? I asked. I wanted to see how far he would go. Zhou Hang didn't even hesitate. Of course, he said, his eyes gleaming. Ancient cultivation wasn't just a legend. A zombie whose body hasn't rotted in 10,000 years is worth more than a city. He told me it could be used for all sorts of things, even for scientific research back at the Marshal Bureau. He laughed then, looking like a man who had already won. I watched his smiling face and felt a chill. I remembered exactly what Shinbing had told me. This man was the mastermind behind everything. He was the shadow behind the curtain. Brother Zhou, I said quietly. I'll be sure to remember that.